Good morning and welcome to Weekends with Whitney. Coming up on this morning show. He can bring music's biggest stars to Baton Rouge with a phone call. He's raised more than $1 million for local charities. He's the voice behind some of the most popular cartoon characters in the world.
Puppy power! I'm outsmarted.
And now he's back on the air.
Classic Hits 103.3, Scott Innes in the afternoon. Don't forget to put the seatbelts on, hug the babies when you get home.
The wild, wacky, and winsome world of Scott Innes.
God, here's your coffee, 2 sugars, 1 cream, the way you like it.
Hey.
Plus, we talk about success with Dr. Nick, why we may need to refine the fruits of our labor. But first, most people shy away from the impossible, but there are those few who barrel head first right through it. Challenge is their fuel, courage their steering wheel, and their drive to make the impossible possible.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now.
This guy's a character, big time. He's the voice of not one,
What you mean Melvin do?
or two,
Hey Fred, what's HD stand for? Heavy duty.
or even 3 famous cartoon characters.
That really hit the spot.
Scott Innes is the voice of dozens.
This is Papa Smurf, and I'm small, blue.
Did you see what I saw?
Like, man, have us over for dinner time because we're starved. Yeah, Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Ever since I was a kid, I loved Scooby-Doo. So I used to mimic the characters when I was fading off into La La Land. I never could let it go, so I'd be laying there drifting off going, like, you know what, Scoob, let's go pick up, blah, blah, blah. And I'd drift off. But and when I got into radio years ago in like 1982, I became good friends with Don Messick, who did the original voice. And we became friends through the years. And then when Don passed away, they asked me, they knew that I did some Scooby, and so they asked me if I would audition. And I went through a series of auditions. Back in '97, I beat out Dave Coulier from Full House. Cut it out. Remember him?
You've got to cut it out.
Next thing I know, I'm sitting next to Mark Hamill, Adrienne Barbeau. I'm at the world-famous Hanna-Barbera Studios in Los Angeles, California, Universal Studios, and I'm doing the most iconic cartoon character in the world. And I had to pinch myself. And then one thing led to another movie, and 1,000 talking toys and video games.
It's crazy like Scooby-Doo. He moves forwards, backwards, and spins around and round.
Roll boy.
Just last week I went in and did a McDonald's commercial.
And did you know, Scoob, right now at McDonald's, kids can join us on our hunt for the missing mummy. Scoob, science, right.
He gets requests from all over the country for Scooby phone calls. It's a thrill for both.
It's really cool calling, special needs kids and stuff, when they, because they're freaking out, especially when their moms film it and then they send it back to me. It's just great. It's precious.
Hello?
Whitey, who is it?
Darian?
Darian and Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. Yeah. Oh, boy. Man, Darian, your birthday. How old are you?
10?
He's more than characters. He's a man of character. The man behind the microphone in Afternoon Drive in Baton Rouge for nearly 2 decades.
Scott Innes in the afternoon. Don't forget to put the seatbelts on, hug the babies when you get home.
Has raised more than $2 million for local charities. Just last month, on a Monday night, he raised $80,000 to help build a special needs ball field in Walker. He got the ball rolling with a few phone calls to some of his famous friends.
You start off with just, you're driving down the road and you go, wouldn't it be neat if we did that? And then it's like, well, who could we get? Well, I don't know. Let me get on the phone. Richie, what are you doing on set? You're in? Okay, doing. Who you calling? I'm calling Larry Stewart. Boom, Larry, you're in? Okay. And then all of a sudden, before you've even made it to lunch, you have 3 of the biggest country music stars, Grammy Award winning, already booked on a date. So then you go, okay, well, we got the venue, the date, and the artist. Now we have no sponsors, we haven't sold a table, we don't know what we're doing, but we have a start.
A few months later, a sold-out crowd had an amazing evening, listening to #1 hits from artists like Lone Star's Richie McDonald.
Every little thing that you do, I'm so in love with you.
I've known Scott INNES for 25 years, as long as this band's been together, and it's just a relationship that we've had, that Scott has with everybody that's out here tonight. He knows that he can pick up a phone when he's doing something that's important, which is very important. All the guys in Lone Star, we all have children near and dear to our hearts, so anytime children are involved, we try to come and be a part of it, just to help, raise awareness and raise money.
They have a huge affinity for you.
They're wonderful people.
Scott has uncanny connections with people, and there's always a gee whiz story to go with it. Scott's a big reason that mega hit made it.
They weren't going to put that song on the album, and I was the first radio personality that Richie called to play the song when it was only half written. And I put it on the radio, and it became an instant hit. We were only playing half of the song that was written on a phone conversation with him playing on the phone. And so I kept telling Richie, that's a monster hit. And he goes, I know, but I don't think the record company gets it. And it came down to the wire. They're getting ready to press the album. And I called his boss, Tom Baldrica at B&A Records, and I had a good conversation to an answering machine and a few choice words and everything. And Richie called me 3 days later, and he was laughing, and he said, look, because of your conversation, not only is that song going to be on the album, it's going to be the first single, and it's going to be the title of the album. Come on. So, to play a little bit of part in that big song.
That song went on to become the unofficial anthem for military families around the world.
My husband's currently out at an undisclosed area in the Middle East. I wanted to say I love him and the kids miss him.
Away a tear from his eye.
My life's all full of crazy stuff like that, but I believe the good Lord, is up there going, okay, now let's give him this one. This will be good.
Scott's as tenacious as he is talented. He not only plays songs on the radio,
Here's Eddie Money on Classic Hits 103.3.
he writes and sometimes sings them too.
So become the miracle and join the team.
And once he gets an idea in his head, get ready. It's gonna happen. Always has. I've never seen anything like it.
Kenny Rogers, my favorite all-time singer of country music. Do you know one day I'm going to write a song for Kenny Rogers? And all these years later, I write a song, I send it to Bob Burwell with Dreamcatcher, Kenny's management, and he says, well, Scott, he said, I love the song. He goes, but Kenny's, at the time, it was like 65. He goes, Kenny's 65. He's been there and done that. His kid days are over.
Kenny picks up the story just a few months after that at his concert in, of all places, Baton Rouge.
And he called me and asked me if I would record it. And I said, Scott, let me tell you my rule. You're a friend. I will listen to it as a friend. I will not record it as a friend. If it's not any good, I'm not going to record it. And he said, that's fair enough.
Kenny loved it. Now, it was Scott who sang on the demo, but then Kenny added his own style.
Every artist, they try to put their twist on it. And he kept sending me demos of it. Like, what do you think of this? I was like, how do you tell Kenny Rogers that it stinks? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's Kenny Rogers. He kept playing it for his wife, and his wife kept saying, it just doesn't have the sentimental emotion that Scott's did. Why don't you try singing it the way he did?
And I don't mind if you leave behind a few handprints home.
And so they did. And we took it to, number 37 on the charts, which is still, my first top 40 hit.
Same kind of thing happened at the Country Music Awards.
As a kid, I used to watch the CMA Awards, and I'd tell my dad, one day I'm going to win one of them awards. And my dad used to, yeah, if anybody would, you would. And all those years later, I'm stepping on the stage of the CMAs, getting the Air Personality of the Year.
And just imagine the thrill of getting to know the singer of your favorite song.
My favorite song of all time in radio is...
You've got one of all that you...
The Search Is Over by Survivor. It was 1982. I remember sitting in the high school parking lot listening to WLS in Chicago, fading in and out of that old AM radio. And they're going, here's a brand new one from Survivor. It's called The Search Is Over. Little did I know that I would become best friends with the guy that sung it. I'm talking really good friends, but I would co-write the theme to Baywatch with him, and that I would produce his funerals and all that stuff last year when we lost him.
Scott grew up in the small town of Poplar Bluff, Missouri. As a young teen, he was the DJ at the skating rink. Now here's my own funny cartoon animation of that scene, just for kicks and giggles.
My darling, I can't get enough of your love, babe. Girl, I don't know why. Can't get enough of your love, babe.
Anyway, the program manager of the local radio station heard him and offered him a job. At 14 years old, Scott became the youngest disc jockey in America. He's won just about every award you can win in radio. The ACM, the CMA, and even the highest award in radio broadcasting, the Marconi.
Like, I don't know about you, Scoob, but like I thought it was like Macaroni Awards. Yeah, that's right. Me too, Scooby-Doo.
The Louisiana Association of Broadcasters gave him the Golden Mike Award not once, but twice. He's been featured in just about every major magazine in the country, and even found a seat on The Tonight Show, right next to Jay Leno. And many more.
Scooby-Doo on Fox and Friends. Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Like Billy Ray, like rules. Yeah, that's right. Billy Ray, Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Scooby represents the coward in all of us. That's why he's so popular, because everybody has a limit,
Scott co-created a local children's TV show and characters called Hal and Al.
When he ran into Slim Phillips, that's how the story goes.
His Hollywood Rolodex reads more like an Oscars or Grammy lineup. Burt Reynolds, George Jones, Willie Nelson, Bryan Adams, and even Dr. Phil. In his 35 years in radio, he admits he's done some crazy things. This is one of them. He puts a new spin on disc jockey. Even the license plate on his car pays tribute to the cartoon that made Scott INNES top dog.
Is that overdoing things or what?
And when country superstar Crystal Gayle needed help singing her huge hit, Just You and I, guess who came to the rescue?
Is just full of stories, but it's funny because when I tell people, it's like the stuff you'd sit around and drink a beer with, and like people think you're making them up. They're like, dude, that's good. The lunch with Conway. You almost had me believing that, and I'm like, I know, right? And so my whole life is just full of stupid things like that.
There are a few embarrassing ones too, like during the Academy of Country Music Awards weekend in Vegas, in the men's spa.
I'm down there and I'm bumping into all these country stars. They're down there and walking around in their robes and their little towels, getting out of the shower, and I'm like, that's Garth Brooks. So I'm like, so I'm over here. Before I know it, a guy comes, taps me on the shoulder. He goes, dude, what are you doing? I go, ooh, I'm taking a picture. It's Garth Brooks. He goes, in the men's shower? Dude, you could get evicted for that. And I'm like, really? And so I'm kind of like, oh. I'm sorry, I didn't know you couldn't do that. So that's another moment in my life, not such a glamorous one. But, I've done some crazy things. But life has been good to me, so I just love to give it back.
Scott's life is so storied, he could write a book. But he's already done that too. It's cartoons and country music, My Life in the Shadow of a Dog. He launched his own magazine a few years ago too, titled Hug, after his signature catchphrase.
Hug the babies.
For nearly 20 years, his audience heard that daily on country station WYNK. Then 4 years ago, in a string of severe budget cuts by Clear Channel Radio, Scott, one of the highest paid on-air talents in Baton Rouge, was let go. Tens of thousands of his loyal listeners were shocked, angry, and disheartened. But now, they've got him back.
Scott INNES in the afternoon.
He returned to the Golden Mic this month, this time on Classic Hits 103.3.
You know, they always say, people ask me if I would get back into radio, and I said, when the time is right. When they basically said, here's the rule, just don't lose the license. They pretty much just let me do what I want, and that's what it takes to win.
And you're never a guy who really plays by the rules.
You're not supposed to mention that.
There's so much that you do. How did that even start?
A long time ago. I was a kid in a,
adult body?
Yeah, I was a kid in an adult body.
What does your therapist call that?
She calls it $1,295 an hour. You're in trouble when your therapist is dialing up friends going, do the Scooby for them. You're going, I'm paying $1,200 for this, but that's actually happened.
So how is the transition going from country to classic top 40? Is that different for you?
Well, it's like I started in top 40, years ago. And so, but, country music, and I love country music, but never really felt like they were right there in the control room with you. You know what I mean? But like top 40 rock and roll, it's like they're right there.
Here's your water, man. Get you anything else?
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Hey, love you, man. Hey, I'm playing Beth for you today on the show.
You too much, man.
I'm telling you,
love
man.
You, baby,
all right,
man. Can I give you a big kiss?
No, that's okay. Yeah, seriously.
Sure?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, we're good.
Scott's always rocking and rolling. And this summer, July 1st weekend, he'll bring more big names in music to South Louisiana. Stars naysayers said no one could get here.
What really motivates me is the impossible. So if it's impossible, then I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it big.
If you're in town this summer over the 4th of July, Scott is planning a huge rock and roll event at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. As soon as contracts are signed and everything is finalized, I'll let you know the big names coming to town. And still to come, laying aside our perceptions of success with Dr. Nick, how it can bring more happiness and fulfillment into our lives after this.
In a world filled with TV and video games, children are losing their thirst for learning and adventure. On February 27th, that all changes. Summer camp is back, and Breck is the place to be. Recreation, theater, animals, nature, art. At Breck, adventure is just around the corner. Register for Breck Summer Camp, February 27th at breck.org, and give your child a summer they will never forget.
Maggio, the only way to go. Maggio Buick GMC, your satisfaction's our specialty. We really deliver on Falls River, here in New Roads. Small town atmosphere, legendary service for over 60 years. Maggio, the only way to go. The only way to go, that's Maggio.
The new year is a perfect time to make your money work hard for you. Hi, I'm Ian James, financial advisor and president of Capital Financial Group. Like millions of Americans, you're likely paying higher taxes and higher fees than you probably should. With 20 years of industry experience, I have a proven plan to analyze your investments and reduce hidden costs and fees. You work hard for your money. It's time to let your money work hard for you. Call me, Ian James, for a free, no-obligation portfolio review and a brighter financial future.
Go Roof is proud to serve the Baton Rouge and surrounding areas with our years of experience and quality service. We want more than just your roofing needs. Go Roof cares about the client and wants you to be our customer for life. Roof replacement, repair, vents, and more. Go Roof will get it done. We have excellent standing relationships with all the top insurance companies, so making your claim is fast and easy. A beautiful roof every single time at Go Roof. Call now for a free estimate.
Buying or selling a home can be stressful and exhausting, unless you choose me. I'm Regina Roselle with KDK Realty. Don't just trust your largest asset to anyone. Go with success. I've sold hundreds of homes over the last 10 years, and I can get you top dollar for your home, as well as get you the best price on your new one. Email me at buywithregina@gmail.com. I'll do all the work. All you have to do is pack. Let's get moving together.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can change my brain. And yours too. Dr. Nick joins us with more on that.
It's not hers or mine. I read that somewhere.
It's
and
clever,
I
though.
loved it.
Yeah.
I loved
words
it.
How do words change your mind?
All right. The way that this article read, and I really believe it, is that, again, we go back to what we've talked about before. We're kind of hardwired for survival. We're hardwired to defend ourselves.
That's how we got here.
and therefore, we are also hardwired to be worried and to be anxious and make sure that, we're going to survive. That is so makes sense to me that's, and I would love to say that I'm hardwired for love and kindness.
But you're a little anxious.
Of course, and worried because of the primal hardwiring in us.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying here is when we talk about words can change the brain, is that if the brain is hardwired to worry and anxiety and threat and fear, what changes it? Not more more hostile words.
What if that happens?
Not more fearful words, not more words of our country's going to hell in a handbasket. That just makes us more anxious. Yeah. What calms us down is words like love, charity, I'm kind, peace, I'm enough, I can, all is well, I'm grateful to be alive. It's a beautiful world. I think of the people that have touched me today. I have no regrets about my life because there are hidden gems in every road that I've taken.
Now, some people may be
Okay.
listening to you going, okay, that's just called rose-colored glasses.
All right, and you know what I would say to them?
Tell me.
I'll wear them for the next 24 hours and every day of my life, because that's the way I would rather see the world.
And you would be better internally, right?
And yes, indeed. And I'm going to be kinder to you.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to be kinder to you. I know the thorns there in that rose, but I can focus on the rose.
I think the political campaign has gotten so nasty, and certainly on the Republican side. I'm shocked at how they call each other liars and they just throw daggers. I've never seen politicians in all my life.
The political discourse, the public discourse.
And I'm worried it's going to trickle down and everyone's going to think that's okay.
And even on television, when commentators speak or when there's a conversation, supposedly a conversation, and it just doesn't appear to be at all civil or respectful. Yeah, and this is where, I'm so glad you brought that up about the rose-colored glasses, because it's right. And the reason why people will think that is because it's difficult to do. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, and if I may, it's precisely what Jesus was about. He wasn't about violence, and he wasn't about hurting people, and he wasn't about this is horrible. He was about helping and making it better.
You were
right?
saying
And carrying his energy towards life. Remember, Whitney, what's going to move us? Fear and threat and worry and anxiety. What's going to calm us is not very cultural. It's not the hardwire.
Yeah, right. Because we had to fight off the bears and the other cavemen way back when.
Right.
And
we live in a different world now. I mean, for someone to say that somehow this nation is in a horror, I'm not getting political. I just don't see it.
Right. I know.
I don't see it. I don't think we've lived in a better society.
There are a lot of good things about us, but we don't hear.
Oh my goodness.
We don't hear about it, which is, I don't know, as a nation, I kind of wonder, like, do we think we're just going down the tubes? I mean, that's certainly no way to live.
But and I want to insist because I know we've got to go. Watch it when you're being pulled into the threat and the survival. That's when it all the more reason. Huh?
To pull back.
Put on the rose-colored glasses and see it differently. It's okay. Life is good.
Yeah, and if you feed into that, and let's just say that you and I are having a conversation,
Okay.
and you look at me and you say, you're a liar. You haven't just hurt me, right? You're
What have I
doing
done?
damage internally.
What have I done? What have I done to me?
I don't know. I want you to tell me.
You said I've damaged me.
But I don't know how.
That's how.
It's the other fingers pointing back.
If I'm going to judge you, it's coming out of my self-judgment. Why would I think someone's a liar unless I am one?
Sure.
Huh?
Sure.
What if I see the world as honest? Obviously, that tells me that I've got some honesty in me. When I say that I think that there are good people in the world, I look at myself and say, I think I've done some good things in this world.
Sure.
Don't you think you've contributed?
Sure.
I mean, this is not an ego boost. This is raising it to a higher level. Again, it just is astounding to me that we get so pulled into the hostile language and the nasty talk. I don't do it.
Yeah.
I won't do it.
Yeah.
When people come into my office and want to scream, I'm like, let's go to the woods.
And then
Not
you
in my
scream it
office.
out there.
Not in my office.
Yeah.
Not in my office. Thank you for raising this issue.
Well,
Words can change your brain. They can, Whitney.
Okay, so.
What would be a good
Good
word
word.
for you as we close out? Because I'll give you my favorite is I'm enough.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I do too.
Would that be good for you? Do you drive yourself so hard?
Oh, and I fall short all the time. You were talking about being anxious and, you have a little worry. I probably need a little more of that. There's a little too lackadaisical. As you say, I can get very in the moment.
We're supposed to do a segment at a certain time, and then
I'm running 15 minutes late. That time thing, that clock thing, I don't have the internal clock. But I'm enough, and I know I can get better. How's that? Is that better?
And as we close, I'm not getting paid to say this.
Okay.
Look at what you've done for this city. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
With your words and your kindness.
Yeah. Be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Thank you, Nick.
Words can change the brain. Bye, everybody.
Much more Weekends with Whitney right after this. Atlas Foundation Repair, fixing your foundation problems for more than 30 years while preserving and protecting your trees. Thanks for sharing part of your Sunday with me here on Weekends with Whitney. And now you can join me for Wednesdays with Whitney on the radio. I'll be joining Jeff Johnson on Classic Hits 103.3 at 8:15 every Wednesday morning to share some of the behind-the-scenes stories and adventures of my show coming up that week. There's a lot that never makes it off the cutting room floor, so we'll share some good laughs together about the antics behind the scenes.
Like a superhero.
And speaking of next week's show, join us as things get a little messy. We head into the pottery studio of a local artist whose newest creations will put a smile on your face and a new spin on your morning cup of joe. It's a mugshot you'll want to take. And we'll meet one of Louisiana's music proteges. At 15 years old, he's the youngest state fiddle champ ever. How the young musician and his 230-year-old fiddle make beautiful music together. That and more all next week, 9 a.m. right here on WBRZ. Until then, we leave you with this.